Welcome to This Team is Killing Us, a podcast about what the Carolina Panthers do to good people. She is Lauren Brownlow. I am Dimitri Ravanis. And Lauren, what is killing me today is this idea, and this will shock you, this idea that maybe we're not asking enough out of BryceYoung. Surely you saw the comments last week that Dave Canales had at the Combine that he does not have any quote-unquote big plans to fix BryceYoung, that his big plans are fixing the offense.
Right. I mean, yeah, I guess so. I'm not going to read into that he doesn't like,
Sure.
Because what's he going to do? Be like, listen, this guy, ooh, it's bad.
Yeah.
Like one conversation with him and he's like, the pass rush. And it's like, whoa, buddy, I think you're seeing things. Like, he's not going to say that. So, that makes sense to me. So I'm not like, yeah. And I mean, look, the offense does. We've talked about it all year. We said it even in the preseason. It needs fixing.
Absolutely, it needs fixing. I mean, this is a guy, I don't think the majority of the problems were on Bryce, right? He was playing behind a line that couldn't keep him upright, and he was throwing to receivers that couldn't get open with regularity. So I'm not saying this is all Bryce's fault, but it has struck me that Dave Canales has sort of gone out of his way to deflect saying even the slightest negative thing about Bryce.
It's really weird to have a Panthers coach not throwing a quarterback right under that bus.
Right.
And it's very strange.
I think there are things that could be said, that could be acknowledged, that are not throwing the guy under the bus. Like you and I have talked about this, and we are not exclusive in this, right? Everybody that has covered the Panthers has made the point that Bryce has not faced adversity like he has in coming to Charlotte. He has never been on the worst team in whatever league he is in.
It was a concern for us coming in.
Absolutely.
Like, it legit was, because we were like, he might not like sucking.
Yeah. And see, I don't think there would be anything wrong with Dave Canales saying that Bryce has to learn how to win when you don't have all of the talent advantage. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The idea of we have to fix him does not have to mean he is at a 0 and we've got to get him to 100. It can be he's at an 81 and we've got to get him to a 95, to a 100, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know that, he probably could have said that or could say that, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, he's probably, if anything, it's actually just very weird to have a coach err on the side of not saying anything that could be construed as him suggesting that Bryce has problems. I think the best thing he could have done upon taking this job, and did do, was full on embrace having Bryce as his quarterback, because that's obviously in sharp contrast to his
his
predecessor who was her, Arrested Development reference. That's basically start calling Bryce Egg at some point.
I hadn't even thought of the idea of Bryce Young as Ann to
Frank Reich.
To Frank Reich, Michael Booth,
or Egg, whatever you want to call her.
The thing that I keep coming away with here is, and look, I'm not saying that I'm already out on Dave Canales. That's not it at all. Yeah. But I do have this question of is anything here going to be put on BryceYoung? Are we ever going to look at Bryce and say, hey man, here is what needs to change? And then I think
he's
about
just a sweet little babe.
Well, sure, he is an adorable little scamp, but think about who Canales' last few quarterbacks have been. Right? Geno Smith is the only one that ever faced any sort of air, or I guess handled any sort of air of challenge from his own team, right? Russell Wilson shut that shit down. Baker Mayfield has responded poorly everywhere he has been to criticism from his own coaches. Except in Tampa. And
although maybe he didn't criticize.
Exactly. That's what my concern is.
Well, I think that here's the thing. I think that there's probably, I'd have to go back through and look at who all of Baker's coaches have been necessarily, but one thing that I've always enjoyed about, well, not always enjoyed about Dave, he was just hired, but I did enjoy when they hired him was his more obviously modern approach to being a coach. He's not out to humiliate anybody.
Right.
It seemed to me, based on everything we heard,
as
that
opposed
he was
to Baker's coach in Cleveland, Freddie Kitchens, that there's video on the sideline of him telling him he will kick his ass.
I'm just saying, so it's I think maybe there is something to be said for taking that approach in general. You can critique somebody without being a dick about it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Or like, and I'm sure there's criticism that's going to happen behind the scenes, but maybe Dave just believes, look, it's better to keep that kind of stuff between Bryce and I because, and you know what? I do think that a lot of coaches do this to kind of save face, to be honest. So like, oh, I'm telling him what to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like that way, if he screws up in a game, it's not on the coach. No, it's just on this sucky quarterback that he tried his best with. And I think the fact that he's kind of willing to like share in that responsibility and really is very careful in what he says about Bryce I don't hate it.
No, listen, I don't think that it is going to be the undoing of Bryce as a pro quarterback or the undoing of the Panthers.
Him still is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I think he'll be honest with him about where his flaws are, what he's doing right and wrong. I just don't think he'll get up in his face about it and scream at him.
Yeah, I mean, look, there is no reason to believe that given every video we've ever seen of Nick Saban at a practice, there's no reason to believe. There's no reason to believe that Bryce had it like taken easy on him at Alabama, but things did come easy to him at Alabama.
The difference, right?
Yeah.
And so I think now it'll be an interesting contrast because nothing's going to come easily here, but you have a nice guy in your corner that maybe he seems like the type that might like snap at Bryce and be like, pay attention, God damn it, and then be like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Oh, you think that? See, I thought,
or like, hey, I'm sorry, I snapped.
I thought it was going to be a pull him aside and say, hey, buddy.
Right. That's the kind of vibe I'm going for. That like, hey, I'm sorry, I lost my cool there, man. Like, no,
Oh, see, I was saying like that's just how he's going to talk to Bryce, not even the stabbing. Yeah.
No, I think he just seems like that
big
type
guy? All right, let's talk about the other news that hit last week, and that is the drastic increase in the salary cap. And look, given where the Panthers are, it's good. You want that cap number to go up, but doesn't that probably mean that expected salaries are going to go up?
Probably.
I don't think that the Panthers are suddenly have more wiggle room than they did before.
No, especially when it comes to some of the bigger contracts, I think. Yeah, like those guys are going to want more now.
Yeah, I wonder if, T. Higgins got franchise tagged. And I think that with the...
You think they'll do it with Burns because of this?
I do. I think they're going to do it with Burns. And I'm a little more okay with them doing it with Burns because the number went up. Because look,
and he might be too. Oh.
Yeah,
well, I know they don't like it. Although, it's not the same as like franchise tagging a running back, which is a real like dick move in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, obviously I get you're a business, but to me, that's like, jeez.
I think after Washington franchise tagged Kirk Cousins in back-to-back seasons, I think there has been a little bit more.
There's a lot more backlash to it, as I think there should be, because especially if you're in a position where literally one injury can just straight up end your career.
Right. And I think that teams have been a little bit more judicious about it because look, that killed any chance they ever had to sign Kirk Cousins long term. And think what you want to about Kirk Cousins. Clearly, the quarterback situation in Washington has not been that good since.
I think much more favorably of him now that I watch the quarterback show.
Everybody says that. And I still don't want to give the time of day to the quarterback show.
I understand. Although, you know what? There is something really special about watching a guy like Patrick Mahomes in that show.
Oh, sure.
You could just fast forward the Marcus Mariota parts. Poor guy. I feel so bad for him going back to that because people will be going back to that, I think, like, especially because Mahomes is in it.
Right.
And you get to see, and Mahomes is super likable in it, too. But you get to see how he works like a freaking maniac. And you're like, wow, look at, no wonder. This isn't just he stumbles on the football field one day and does absurd things that we're all like, it's like he really just puts everything he has into it. But it's like him, Kirk Cousins, who's like this likable, self-deprecating, dorky dad.
He's a dad that happens to have a big arm.
And then you get freaking Marcus Mariota with the saddest quarter. He's the only one that's not.
He was the only one going into that season. It's like, oh, yeah, we know he's not going to be a starter, right? He was the only one.
I don't think they knew that. But obviously, when they made the show, I don't think they did. Sure. I don't even think they knew he was in danger, but it became progressively.
See, I thought common sense sort of told you that, okay, if you have two quarterbacks that are basically the same, you're going to see what you have in the younger guy, right?
Yeah. And I just felt so bad for him because I have always liked him as a guy. He seems like a very nice person.
Sure.
But he wasn't that interested. His home life, they didn't do enough with his home life, which would have been cool too. Let's delve more into his childhood and stuff. But no. Instead, I felt so bad for him.
There's no supporting character in his home life, right? Maybe he just sort of lives alone.
No, he's married.
He
Really? And I think he met her at Oregon. I think she was an athlete as well.
Oh, you know what? Great. Yeah, that sounds right. That she ran track,
nice.
right?
Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah. They seem very nice. They seem lovely.
Yeah.
But just you just watched his scenes and you were just like, oh, it was just like one big cringe. You know?
I think that for Falcons fans, and look, I would have the same worry for Panthers fans right now.
Listen, I view us as very kindred.
Are they doing a second season of that show?
I don't know. I heard they were, but then I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, I heard they were too. And then all these quarterbacks were saying, please do not call me for that show.
Which is really, I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
I do. Because they were like, they followed Mahomes like into the playoffs and everything.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he's getting filmed a lot.
Right.
And I could see why, you know, they would maybe say, I don't know if I want that.
I think it says a lot that even Russell Wilson does not want to be a part of that show.
He'd have to talk a lot.
How are you going to win the presidency if you're not in front of everybody all the time?
Listen, the thing about, well, we could do a whole thing about Russell. He would put everyone to sleep.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. But I'm just saying, it seems to fit with what his brand is. How would you feel if Bryce were on that show, season 2, season 3, and America agrees, oh, this is the boring guy?
I mean, we can't all be the fun guy.
No, I understand we can't all be the fun guy, but if we all walk away going, there is nothing to like about it.
You know what it would do to me.
Would it break you or are you immune? That's why I'm asking you.
I mean, look, I rooted for a team with Kerry Collins on it.
Sure.
I would be fine to root for a guy that's just boring. Okay. When you look around the NFL, boring, it's probably at this point, that's probably an asset. To be boring. I can feel better about it. Like, but you know what it would make me think about? It would make me think about Cam.
So that's exactly what I was about to say. Like, I don't think any franchise has been as blessed with personality by one player, by one quarterback.
It's like the universe has decided we don't need any more of that.
Yeah. No, you've had your fun, Carolina.
Honestly, like, there were a lot of others before him too.
Sure.
It was part of what's made me love this team over the year. Even Robbie Anderson was a personality, man, when he was here. I miss him already. What's that bear doing? I miss Robbie.
Cam and Josh Norman on the same team. Like, there's a reason they had to fight.
Yeah, of course. Steve Smith played with Cam at one time. Like, talk about all the personality, you know what I mean? And like this, you know, Frankie Louvu seems to be great, have an awesome personality. Yeah. I don't really know that we know that much about him.
No, that's a good point. Like, I think that Hayden Hurst wants to have that personality.
He does?
He seems like he wants to be...
isn't his personality, like, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know what it would be.
Were you about to say?
Does he have long hair?
He does.
Like, I started to say Thor.
Okay, yeah, that's what he wants to be.
That's not a personality.
Red Thor is what they called him at South Carolina. Oh my God. Yeah, you know, it's funny because he's got red hair.
Okay, well... I doubt he has. When has he ever needed to have a personality?
No, I agree with you. I'm just saying. I think like, he is aspirational.
Travis Kelce doesn't need to have a personality, right. But he does. So,
all right. I guess we're done with salary cap talk. Did you see? Speaking of costs rising, did you see Chris Russo on First Take's reaction to the news?
No,
that prices for tickets are going up in Carolina.
Oh, no. And I don't have headphones, so I don't know how I'm going to hear.
Here, take mine.
Oh, bless. Thank you. Yeah, this will be great because this is the first time I am hearing this.
Charging 4% ticket increase for next year for the Panthers.
Wow.
I mean, you got, son.
Because they won some games?
You got to be you're not serious, are you? With this God-forbidden franchise that stinks, where you're firing head coaches, when you're telling everybody who to draft on draft day, including Young instead of C.J. Stroud. And I love Young too, but that was a mistake. In a market that cares more about college basketball than the NFL, in a stadium that's a little old, and you're going to make them ante up 4% more. I don't care what the percentage is. You should give them the games for free. And you're going to, for exhibition games, you're going to make them pay for it when you guys make a fortune when the NFL prints money, and you're going to charge those poor Panther fans 4% more? 4%. That is a complete, utter disgrace. And for an owner who has absolutely no good PR, okay, that's the last thing you do to your fan base off a lousy year when you're throwing water in Jacksonville at the fans because you're upset that you lost the Jaguars. You know what? I got an idea to fix our problem. Let's charge them more money to see the garbage that we put on the field. That is I don't know who came up with that idea. You give them a discount off that kind of season, not a price increase.
I got to say, I appreciate the little bit of Donald Trump in Chris Russo that he has to get in there. Hey, I like BryceYoung too. That was a mistake. We're not going to talk about that.
I was like, oh, that's nice. Like, I actually thought that to myself. I was like, because he didn't have to say that.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I mean, but it was nice of him to say, like, hey, he might be a good player too, basically. But like, or I don't know, maybe he was saying he's a nice person. I don't know.
Maybe.
But he's like, hey, he might be good. But no, that's bless him for advocating for us. Because
Agreed.
I thought this was supply and demand, Dimitri.
Sure.
I thought that's what capitalism was. I went to school and learned that, and I learned as I become an adult. Again and again, how that's not really how it works, is it?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm glad to have someone like you in my life that can acknowledge such a thing and vocalize it, because as a film student, I didn't learn any of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, economics?
Economics.
Well, I was a journalism major, so they make you take it.
Oh, see.
Let me tell you what. I hated it.
Yeah, I was a film major, so I took a lot of imagination related classes, and we are now doing the same thing for a living.
In economics, they would say these words. I'm like, that's gibberish to me. I do not understand anything you're saying right now. Nothing.
What I think, so I believe, I could be wrong about this, I believe Russo's son is like a big Jaguars fan. So he has some
sympathy with the small.
Sympathy for the smaller markets.
And he did phrase it. He didn't say just like some team market doesn't care about football. He's like, they care more about college basketball, which is fair.
For Charlotte? I mean, for North Carolina, yes.
You're right. Charlotte is different in that way. I mean, I don't expect freaking MadDog to know that. I might not even though Stephen A. Smith should probably know that since he went to Winston State. I don't know that he knows the current dynamics of the state at this point and like what Charlotte is now and like versus the rest of it. But yeah, no, I mean, listen, I'm sorry. We all understand that we care about this team plenty when it's not even good.
Yeah.
It's not like we demand like 17 whatever 17 wins. Like no one's ever demanded that.
Right.
We will watch this team when they are at or near 500 or like below it, and not even like, we just want something that will be a watchable product.
It's weird, right? Like I had argued for years with NC State fans that would tell me, "Oh, it's clear you hate NC State." They're talking about basketball, and I would always say, "I don't hate NC State, but I need you to be 30-0 or 0-30. This 15-15 shit every year bores me."
Honestly, I think even State fans have hit that point-ish.
Yeah, I'm
where
sure
they're just tired of like being almost like they have also. I have sympathy with them right now in basketball. Not to make some college basketball podcast, but it does sometimes feel like they're watching the same version of like the different game play out over and over and over and over again.
Right. Ever since Tepper took over the Panthers, and really even the couple seasons before that, it does sort of seem like I want you to get back to 500 at this point. Like, give me reason to believe that at some point, someday, a double-digit win season is possible again here.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's I don't know why that made me think of depression. That was bad.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, it's literally when you're like at your lowest point of depression and you're like, hey, I just vacuumed. Like, I nailed it. Like, good for me, because I didn't want to, and I didn't even want to get out of bed today. And I want to just curl up here and not think about anything. But I made myself, and damn it, I'm going to be proud of myself for that.
Yeah,
that's where your bar is.
My mental image of depression is
that's how it works.
Being in a pit with no ladder, completely smooth walls, and everybody up top yelling at you, just climb up. It's so easy to climb up. What's wrong with you? Why can't you climb up?
Honestly, if that exact scenario happened in my real life, but not in a mental health analogy, I'd be like, please just let me die down.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, right? Or at least let me take a nap, right? Like I might be able to address this, but I can't right now. That is kind of what it felt like all of last season, right? Like it should be easy to win in the NFL. It's a league built on parity.
We're like, fire the coach. And he's like, okay.
Do us a favor, take the time to rate and review this podcast. It is how more people go about finding this team is killing us. And we want to spread whatever sort of feelings it is we have about the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, listen, we just don't want to be alone in this sadness. That's all we ask.
Exactly.
Yeah. So go rate, review, and subscribe wherever it is you are getting this show, whether it's on your favorite podcast platform or if it is on YouTube, do that as well. All right, Lauren, we asked people to do half of the show for us this week. Jump into the mailbag, if you will.
Yeah.
Whether it was Twitter, Instagram, I think we got one question on Facebook as well. We just asked you to, hit up our social channels and ask us anything, whether that is about the Panthers, about Bryce specifically, about Lauren and I. Whatever the case may be, we want to answer your questions. So, Lauren, are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. First one coming from Samuel Fleming at Nashman92 on Twitter. What happens first? The Panthers win the NFC South or get a proper indoor practice facility?
That's easy. That's the NFC South because
Okay.
That's way easier.
I agree. And when you said that's easy, I was very nervous that you were going to get it wrong.
Here's the other thing. They can do one of those things technically,
Sure.
in spite of David Tepper, and one of them requires his involvement and success.
And I think that he is willing to die without a practice facility to prove his point to the people of Rock Hill, South Carolina.
He'd die in that hole too if they were like, we will get you out of here if we...
I had to explain to a friend who works in sports radio in Denver, like, because they were asking me, like, so what's the deal? Did the practice facility, did he run out of money? I was like, no, it didn't run out of money. He's leaving it unbuilt out of spite.
He's just, listen, yeah, that was the hardest part of being in Denver, by the way, because it was when I went and visited, it was not long after the Super Bowl. And I just was looking around like, God damn it, the whole time. Like, can't stand you. I mean, I don't hate them, actually, but I did then.
I find it boring that they always find a way to get back to relevance.
Well, I love that they haven't had a good quarterback since then, and I feel like it's what they deserve.
Well, to be fair, Lauren, they didn't have a good quarterback then either.
I know.
All right, the next one on Instagram from Duke football coverage. Does Dave Canales give off cool dad vibes, youth pastor playing an acoustic guitar vibes, or secret genius vibes?
That's interesting because in some ways I see all of those. In some ways. You and I talked about this before the show, and I feel like we should mention this.
Yeah.
Because Dimitri was somehow, I think he must have just missed it. You might have had something going on. You guys might have been out of town or something when the news broke that about Dave Canales' book that he co-wrote with his wife about marriage.
I live in like a teenager tunnel vision, basically.
I do too sometimes, so I totally understand.
Yeah.
But and basically, like, it was about his infidelity, his binge drinking. He co-wrote this with his wife and his addiction
was
to
it braggadocious?
Pornography. No.
Oh.
It was how he found Jesus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. How he found Jesus. And so, like, it's hard for me to see youth pastor and not go. I mean, although, like, it's not, I mean, look, he's owning it.
Sure.
It's more than a lot of people do that behave poorly.
I just got done reading Jason Kirk's book, Hell is a World Without You.
I really want to read that.
And I'll give it to you. I kind of feel like, I don't know, that does feel very youth pastor based on the book I just read.
It's like, as long as you like admit and you seek forgiveness and stuff, and sometimes you don't even have to do the latter part.
Yeah.
Really. Can
I give you one that that Duke football coverage did not suggest? That every time I've seen Canales like interviewed on camera, that neighbor that is so up and positive all the time that you sort of weigh, do I want to walk to my car now or do I just wait like 5 minutes till he's back inside his house?
Oh my gosh. Well.
I mean, look, I'm glad he's our coach because I think he's a very good football coach.
If he were my neighbor, that would not be the way.
No, I understand. Your idea is very different of what it is you want to do with that toxic positivity. I can't go
outside when he's outside because I will turn red when he talks to me.
How are you, Lauren?
I'll be like, I'm fine. I'm gonna go down now.
He knows my name.
Be like, love you. I didn't say that.
I didn't say that.
No. I was a bird.
We're talking about how silly and or problematic his book could be, and you would be rushing up to him to tell him how wonderful it is the second he talked to you.
I
learned so much.
I probably wouldn't mention.
You're so handsome.
Yeah, I would. I would say that to myself for sure.
Right.
Oop, did I say that out loud?
From Carrie Morgan, with the NFLPA report cards out, which teams would be trying to hide them from or distract their parents when they got home, and how would they do it?
That never works, by the way.
No, it doesn't, because at least in my experience, your teacher also calls the house.
Right.
Yep.
Also, usually you need your parents to sign it. I know you can forge it.
Right.
Not saying none of us have ever tried that.
Right.
Thankfully, my kid isn't smart enough to do that. He hasn't learned that trick yet. But I mean, like, it just never works. Like,
Sally and I just had this conversation about our daughter because she has a D, a passing grade, but still a high D in math.
I've been there.
Yeah, we just had this conversation about, obviously she needs some help and she refuses to accept any help. So we have to have a tough conversation with her about, like, hey, you got to take help whether you want it or not. And we have agreed that I can't be the one to tell her that because I have spent the majority of the beginning of her educational career telling her none of this matters until you get to high school.
Oh, no.
Which
Why?
is not wrong.
Well, you don't need to tell them that. I'm not saying you should lie, but you don't have to mention it. We have to do lies of omission all the time as parents.
See, so, people that
We
grew up...
can't be like, you won't use any of this.
Yeah, people that grew up like evangelical talk about having religious trauma. I definitely have education trauma. And I'm going to bend over backwards, not for my kids not to have it. And now it has backfired on me.
Well, I was going to say, I get that too, to a degree. I don't know what the Panthers got.
I think the Panthers got mostly B's across the board, except in, I think, owner. They got a D, which shouldn't be a surprise.
A D?
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder what kept it from an F.
I think that you have to
that
think
he still
about
owns the team.
Well, but you have to look at who got it up. Like Kansas City's owner got an F.
An F?
I think the Jets owners got an F.
Well,
the Steelers owners.
Fine. Now I know what it takes to get an F.
The Steelers owners didn't get an F, but they got a pretty low grade. And I think what they all have in common is they have pretty old school approaches to the way they treat their players.
David Tepper has the unique honor of just being a dumbass.
Right. We don't hate him. We just think he's a moron. That has to be the view of the players, right?
I'm a moron. I wish we're not saying that to be like jerks to him. It's just like we want him to know that about himself. Like the way we know it about ourselves.
We're not trying to be jerks to him. We just want him to know we think he's stupid.
We want him to know that he is stupid.
Is it possible that everybody on the team gave him an F, but Bryce gave him an A with so many pluses that it raised the average to a D?
No, it had to be a couple others. There has to be a couple others that are like, oh, he loves me.
That's fair.
His favorite.
I believe Washington finished dead last, and granted, I know there's new ownership, but based on the entire history of that franchise, I'm guessing they hit it by putting it just in a different room, hoping that the parents were too lazy to walk in there. Yeah. Because that is not a team that tries at anything.
That's right. Yeah. Just hope that the Panthers the parents don't walk in. Yeah. Have your siblings lie about what's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the Commanders. God, I still doing it.
No, listen, I do it too.
And I never liked the name. Never in my life did I like it.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, everyone's going to say it. So I guess I have to.
Let's do, Kerry gave us 2 questions here. Let's do his second one because the second one is pretty fun. How would you compare each head coach or owner throughout Panthers history to a classic 80s or 90s cartoon character? All right, not from the 80s or 90s, but because the Looney Tunes are timeless, let's go ahead and move this one
where I keep going.
To the side. Obviously, Jerry Richardson was Foghorn Leghorn.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that too cliche?
No, let's just acknowledge that's the case and move on.
That's fine. Yeah, I agree.
I feel like Frank Reich sort of strikes me as Wimpy from Popeye.
I could see that.
Dave Canales is a little too early to tell. I think Dave Tepper has. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. I was like, why was I like Prince Eric from Little Mermaid?
For Dave Canales. I swear to God, when you said Dave, I thought you meant Tepper. Which is why I was like,
I don't know why I'm just out here calling him Dave, like we're buddies.
Sure.
But it's fine.
Dave Tepper, he has aspirational Monty Burns energy, but he's not there.
I can't get away in my mind from Mr. Magoo. And I hate that because it's such a cliche. It's the bald.
Sure.
I think. And,
okay.
And the whole metaphorical blindness.
Yeah.
That's why in my head, that's all I can see.
I see Richie Rich.
I could see that.
He's got all this money.
I'm just trying to think of
dumb to know what to do with it.
Of a shiny bald cartoon that's kind of cartoonishly something,
Yeah.
it's
Mr. Clean, far too handsome. But he is a shiny bald cartoon.
I don't know who Ron Rivera would be. That's tough.
Oh, who would Ron Rivera be? Well, what personality aspect are we even zeroing in on?
I think the general niceness.
Oh, okay.
Right? Don't you think?
Yeah, the general niceness. I would also say the sort of
he's a movie coach, kind of,
Yeah, he always struck me. Maybe this was a matter
more than anything.
Yeah, this might be a matter of having to deal with both. I guess in varying cases.
Yeah,
Steve Smith, Cam Newton, and Josh Norman. There's a certain put upon dad element to him too.
oh boy, here we go again.
Right. But
Cam's wearing one of those damn hats. Like, I mean, that was kind of his. He'd be like, "What's Cam's hat coming in here?" He's like, "Oh no,
he's Barney Rubble." No, I'm sorry. He's George Jetson.
okay, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
George Seifert.
Oh god.
That might be your Mr. Magoo.
No, what's like maybe the guy who's the professor from Phineas and Ferb.
Oh, Dr. Doofenshmirtz.
Yeah, like an obviously very smart man whose plans just don't work ever.
Okay, I know he did
and they
not.
probably used to, because like why else would he still be here doing them? But they're not working anymore.
I know he did not look like this at the time he was the head coach, but ever since they brought Dom Capers back to that advisory role and he had Lego Man hair, I just see Emmett from the Lego movie.
Yeah, totally. And he had that energy too, so that's fine.
That's fair.
That works.
I think we've hit everybody, right?
Yeah, I think that's all
Seifert? Oh, John Fox.
Oh, God. How do we forget John Fox? I don't even know if there's a cartoon character.
I can't even read like John. And granted, I was living in Alabama at the time. John Fox just seemed so nondescript to me.
He'd be like, I haven't watched cartoons since Popeye the Sailor Man was on live or something. This is something I can imagine John Fox saying angrily as he chewed gum in response to this. So it's hard for me to like connect him to.
Yeah.
He's also a movie coach, but a different kind.
Yes, he is. He's Bud Kilmer. Was that his name in Varsity Blues? John Voight's character? Was he a good person or a bad person?
Bad person. Well, John was not a bad person. He just was a bit of like a kind of a hard ass, like stoic, but he was like, the guys all loved him.
Oh, really? I thought by the end the guys all disliked him.
Maybe by the end they did it. But like for a lot of it, like I think the guys liked kind of his general, curmudgeonliness at first, but I guess that charm starts to wear off.
He is Mr. Wilson from Dennis the Menace.
Yes, that's a good one.